Let's do it. What's up, sons? It's Blind Rod with Son of a Tech once again, and today we have yet another episode of the Crypto Mining Show, your one-stop shop for all cryptocurrency news from the perspective of a cryptocurrency miner. Today we're going to be covering the Ledger vulnerability and why you should probably just stop utilizing hardware wallets altogether. We're also going to be talking about Blockstream prepping for a new sale to rebound or to capitalize off the rebound of Bitcoin mining rig prices. Of course, the prices of ASICs have begun to skyrocket once again. I'm hoping to get one more last purchase at the bear market prices of some S19s. We'll see how that goes. I have one on the line. Hopefully I'll grab them. We're also going to be talking about the PS5 APU powered mining GPU that has now been listed on eBay. And we'll go back in time and look at that because they were silently launched, a really interesting project. I got one on the way. So yes, we'll be talking about it here on this channel as I get one in. Hopefully, you never know. Maybe I got scammed on eBay. We'll see what happens. We're also going to be getting 64 gigabyte DDR5 modules. This could be interesting from the perspective of building out those new proof of useful work rigs, aka just basically mining rigs that other people are renting from you. At the end of the day, it appears the route that we're going with proof of useful work and AI these days. We're also going to be talking about the blip in the Caspa network hash rate. I'm a little curious if you guys have more information. I haven't found a ton. We're just going to cover what was supposedly the issue and then kind of end it there. We've had a crazy week, or crazy couple weeks, crazy month really in the cryptocurrency mining space off the backs of a lot of Caspa forks. And they're very, very quickly they're a very quick adoption rate across the board from Carlson and now Pyron. We're going to be taking a look at a few minor release updates that have come out surrounding this. We're going to discuss those strategies a little bit and kind of give you guys a working idea of how you should be approaching these projects, hopefully from the GPU mining perspective, because this is primarily a GPU mining focused channel. Yes, we're also going to be talking about the mining profitability for the week. I'll go over a little update I did on my main rig that we're streaming to you guys from as well. All of that and more after a word from today's sponsor. Ooh, we gotta get firing on all cylinders, baby. We're kind of hiccuping. I got a misfire. I'm gonna check these spark plugs. Today's sponsor is BT Miners. BT Miners has been a long-time sponsor of the channel and a proven reliable source for ASIC miners. If you are looking to purchase ASICs hardware from Bitcoin to Dogecoin miners, they are available for purchase on bt-miners.com. BT Miners has recently launched an app on iOS and Android that lets you browse their inventory by profitability and return on investment. Follow the affiliate link in the description and use promo code SOAT for a discount. And welcome back, everyone. So definitely check out BT Miner's new app. It's free to download and it gives you a quick reference for ASIC miner profitability right off the bat. They usually do end up having some pretty decent deals as well on cryptocurrency miners as far as ASICs are concerned. Another outlet that I really like to use is Coastal Crypto, so definitely check that out down in the description below. That's where I get a majority of my ASICs unless I'm getting them through some back channel, which is what I primarily try to do these days. That being said, if you're looking at just purchasing ASICs from a retailer that's trusted, those two are ones I trust. So definitely check it out and compare and contrast the prices. Let's go ahead and talk about Ledger. There was an exploit that endangered DeFi, and that basically a warning to not interact with any decentralized apps with your Ledger. The exploit reportedly prompts users to connect their wallets via a pop-up, triggering a token drainer. Now, here's the thing about this particular exploit that everyone should be aware of. This is an exploit that can be across any dApp enabled wallet. So if you got a web wallet, right, that sort of thing, like MetaMask, these exploits have been quite common across the board. So it's not just limited, I think, to Ledger in this particular case. But let's go ahead and get the details. Sushi's chief technology officer warned of an industry-wide exploit related to a Ledger's Connect kit as the decentralized finance protocol was hit by a front-end exploit. Ledger, a maker of hardware wallets, provides ConnectKit software that decentralized finance protocols such as Lido, MetaMask, and Coinbase, along with Sushi, use to connect decentralized apps to its products. By comprising the front end of a website or application, hackers can alter functions users see and con them into inadvertently sending cash to the exploiters rather than to their own wallets. Do not interact with any dApps until further notice, said Sushi CTO Matthew Lilly on X. It appears that a commonly used Web3 connector has been compromised, which allows for injection of malicious code affecting numerous dApps. The exploit reportedly prompts users to connect their wallets via a pop-up, which then triggers the token drainer. Issues have also been reported across other DeFi websites, including Zapper and Revoke Cash. 5 hours after the hack, Ledger published a post-mortem on X. It confirmed that a former Ledger employee fell victim to a phishing attack, which allowed a hacker to insert malicious code into Ledger's Connect kit. It adds that the code has now been removed and stablecoin issuer Tether has frozen the hacker's wallet. We've identified a critical issue in the Ledger connector that has been compromised, potentially allowing the injection of malicious code affecting various dApps, Sushi wrote in a statement. If you have a Sushi page open and see an unexpected Connect wallet pop up, do not interact or connect your wallet. One X user pointed out that Ledger's library had been compromised and replaced with a token drainer. Ledger said it had identified and removed a malicious version of the Ledger Connect kit. A genuine version is being pushed to replace the malicious file now, Ledger said. Do not interact with any dApps for the moment. And of course, this has been resolved now. They've come out and said that it is. But this does bring up a few points, I think, across the entire board that I find interesting. One is, of course, the ability for Tether to lock down the hacker's wallet. And no, that's no fun because that's a centralization issue. That means that they can lock it down if they disagree with you as well. So, a lot of people want to utilize stable coins to protect investments or like basically profits and that sort of thing. I kind of get it, but I think you should go ahead and pull out to US dollar completely if you are working in that realm. Of course, trading between platforms and so on, I kind of get it. A lot of this is, I think in general, right? We talk about the steps of wallets, and it's important to understand like the flow and security when you're participating in cryptocurrency. And I'll give you kind of my take on it and what I practice, right? I have basically my cold wallets, and those are seed phrases that are generated on an offline computer that are then stored offline completely, and that is where I put a majority of my holdings that I don't want to participate in any networks with. And then I have what is a warm wallet, and that wallet is going to be something that does basically connect to something that basically will bring me online, but doesn't stay online all the time. And you can utilize hardware wallets for this, but I have been moving away from hardware wallets completely. What I prefer to do is basically have some sort of Cubes OS installed as the easiest one, for example, which is a Linux distribution that I have done videos on how to utilize, and they bring up basically individual containers of VMs that keep them all separated in case you get a wallet with malicious software or malicious code or something on it, keep them all separated. And that way I can open up each individual wallet on that particular on that particular device, send out the cryptocurrency where I need to, and then shut it down. And then I have my hot wallets, right? They're going to be like the things where I have my MetaMask connected to my web wallet, my, Nautilus, my Alephium web wallets, those types of things. And those ones in particular are utilized for any daily trading type connectivity and so on. And then the last step is any centralized exchange like a crypto.com or a Coinbase or a ZegX or whatever that may be. And the amount of cryptocurrency held in all of those decreases as it goes up. So you're filtering all the way through, and that's going to filter out basically the capability of being vulnerable and the amount of your cryptocurrency that will be vulnerable all the way down. And this is what I highly recommend. I also like one of the big things that I think a lot of people miss too from the miner's perspective is keep your mining wallet as like basically a warm wallet, right? And what I would recommend doing is mining to that warm wallet and then booting up every once in a while, taking that warm wallet and sending it to basically a paper wallet. And what that's going to do is try to keep as much obfuscated off of like the public network as possible, because if you have that mining wallet, on a pool and such, those pools are going to be able to see that wallet. If you get targeted because let's say you're a large mining whale in some random shit coin and somebody decides to start pressing you, at least you get a little bit more obfuscation off of that. So these are kind of the steps I would take surrounding it. Also, you really can't trust a lot of these hardware wallet companies anymore. And the other downside to them is that they're integrating so many different cryptocurrencies. And I get this, I get the idea, like for convenience, everybody wants all of their crypto in one location, utilize Ledger. When do you have Ledger support? When do you have Trezor support? When do you have, whatever hardware wallet you're utilizing? The thing is like the more integration you have with these, the more vulnerabilities you're going to pick up because of all of the integrations into a single wallet. So I technically, like, from my perspective, the more adoption, or not adoption, but the more cryptocurrencies that are supported by a single hardware wallet, the more compromised or the more capable it is to be compromised, in my humble opinion. So I'm moving away from hardware wallets completely. I'm not a big fan of them. Plus, they can push malicious software through your Connect if they wish, and all of that sort of thing. I also don't like things like the Zelcore wallet, right? I don't like the idea of everything being all in one wallet. It's just going to put you in a position where if that single thing is compromised, well, you're screwed. Whereas if you're spinning up individual wallets, preferably command line wallets, wire command line wallets, they're going to be harder to access in general for a majority of the population. 2, they're going to be completely containerized from the rest of your wallets if you're doing it properly through virtual machines, etc. So if there's some sort of rug pull from a particular network, or they push malicious software in a node update, that's not necessarily connected to the rest of your wallets, and they won't be able to get those. So, you're just reducing your risk more and more and more the more you separate out each wallet. I know it can be a lot of work, but I have never said that this is passive income. And I think anybody that says that is full of so don't do it. Don't believe it. You got to be active here, because this is the web. It's very tough to stay secure. Hacks are going to happen all the time. You need to be on your toes. So that's kind of my 2 cents about it. I'd like to hear your thoughts in the live chat as well as the comment section below after the pre-recording goes live. Now, Bitcoin mining rig prices, or ASICs in general, are on the rise. And on top of that, we're starting to see RTX 4090s completely disappear off the network, or off the store shelves, I should say. And we're starting to see that filter down to the rest of the GPUs. Now, due to the increase of price of GPUs at retail from the previous generation of the 3000 series, NVIDIA also never gave really good cuts on GPUs in the first place. They just ended up sitting on the shelves and people didn't buy them and they remained extremely high. Now we're getting to the point to where people are buying up these GPUs and we're starting to run out again. And then on the flip side, the ASICs are starting to go up in price. Blockstream is prepping a new sale of notes designed to profit from these rebounding prices, and it's pretty interesting. The basic note is a Bitcoin-denominated investment vehicle to accrue gains from the price of ASIC mining equipment, which Blockstream anticipates will rise post-halving. And here's the thing that's interesting about this, because it's giving you as an individual, you know, obviously the potential to invest, I think, here in the uptick of the price of ASICs without buying the ASICs. I don't agree with this before we get into it. I think you should just buy the ASICs and then, you know, obviously it takes more work, but like I said, this channel isn't about passive income. So, you know, this might get passed off to you as passive income in an easy way. The easier way it is, the easier it is, the easier it is for you to lose it. That's the way I look at it. But let's get into it. Fresh from surpassing its $5 million target in Series 1 for its basic notes designed to profit from rebounding Bitcoin mining rig prices, Blockstream is returning to the market with the Series 2. The Bitcoin infrastructure firm raised $5 million for its Blockstream ASIC basic note Series 1 in September, of which it will allocate $4.876 million to acquire Antminer S19K Pro ASIC mining machines. The target for Series 2 is yet undisclosed, according to a Blockstream spokesman. Blockstream is aiming to capitalize on historically low prices for mining hardware ahead of 2024's Bitcoin halving, according to an emailed announcement on Wednesday. Basic is a Bitcoin-denominated investment vehicle to accrue gains from the price of ASIC mining equipment, which Blockstream anticipates will rise post-halving. A pitch for the notes, getting squeaky there, describes the investment strategy like this, quote, leveraging Blockstream's long track record, leading market position, substantial scale, broad expertise, and strong relationships across the ASIC supply chain, the basic structure plans to acquire and warehouse new and unused ASICs at attractive prices, and to eventually strategically sell them back into the market as the industry rebounds within the next 12 to 24 months. Unfortunately, everybody's starting to catch on. If you guys have taken my crypto mining e-course over at sonofatech.com, you would know that this is the strategy that I've been deploying for the past, 7-8 years. So this is, obviously a very good strategy and is probably going to pay off for them. What's going to be interesting, though, is now that people are catching on to this, I think the strategy's got to shift at some point, because I think the other thing that people are missing is once the Bitcoin fees reach basically the same as the Bitcoin block reward, the newly minted Bitcoin, there we go. What we're going to see, I think, is a leveling out of the disparity between the bear market and the bull runs in that 4-year cycle. I was projecting that really to be out maybe another 3 cycles, but I think that's quickly changing because of ordinals. And ordinals are bringing up the fees on the Bitcoin network. And if that remains through the bear market, right, I think we're going to see basically an acceleration of us moving into what I think people refer to as like the macro cycle, right? Where we're going to stabilize the price of Bitcoin. I'd like to hear your thoughts and opinions, of course, in the live chat as well as the comment section below on that one. Now, I'm super excited about this one because I did buy one, and I've been wanting one of these since we talked about it, like 3 years ago, 2 years ago, whatever it may have been. The PS5 APU powered mining GPU has hit eBay for $500, a PS5 chip with 2 less CPU cores and half the memory that consumes around 90 watts. Here's a picture of the board. 5 of AMD's crypto-oriented BC250 graphics cards, which use the PlayStation 5 APU's codename Oberon, instead of regular GPU chips, have hit eBay for just $500. The BC250 starred initially in one of ASRock's mining rig products in 2022, which retailed for $14,800 US and contained 12 BC250s. That's $1,233 per card. So this $500 eBay listing is in theory a great deal. However, it might need even more discounts given that today isn't a great time to get into cryptocurrency mining. Now's the perfect time, by the way, if anybody's curious, to get into cryptocurrency mining, because once it starts taking off, then the prices are going to go back up and you're screwed once again. That's my 2 cents, not financial advice, but you know, if you're trying to actually be able to have any equipment at all, you have to buy when the equipment's available, and it's available now, even down to these very rare units. The BC250 presumably exists for the same reason that AMD's 4700S does, to use the PS5 APUs that didn't come out of the oven right. Consequently, the specs of these BC250 cards are cut down with just 6 out of 8 CPU cores enabled, and it's also possible that at least some or even all of the graphics cores are also disabled. I don't think that's true, but we'll go on. The BC250 also comes with just 8 gigabytes of GDDR6 as opposed to the 16 gigabytes on the PS5. I also am not sure that is true either. I'm pretty sure these ones in particular have 16. The eBay listing person also made a Linus Tech Tips forum post detailing other essential specs. It seemingly has a functioning GPU, unlike the 4700S, with a reported core clock speed and memory clock speed of 1,145 megahertz and 450 megahertz respectively. The BC250 consumes about 90 watts of power, indicating that it is significantly faster than the 4700S, which hits 68 watts on average in our testing. The BC250 isn't just a graphics card though. Thanks to its CPU cores, each BC250 can be its own computer. The user who made the forum post and the eBay listing says he has each card running Ubuntu off a 32 gigabyte flash drive. That's unique among mining cards otherwise made from graphics chips with no CPU cores. On the surface, $500 each for one of these GPUs sounds pretty good compared to the $14,800 it would cost to buy 12. However, today isn't the best time to get into crypto mining. Once again, I completely disagree. Crypto is in a slump at the moment. You have not been paying attention to the charts, and although popular currencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum have seen recovery since October, the market is still well down from its peak in late 2021, and you don't know what you're talking about. Please, given how fickle, given how fickle crypto is, this recovery may be short-lived. You don't know what you're talking about. Mining has also taken a hit on Ethereum's switch from proof of work to proof of stake. That's true. The work in proof of work is mining, but a proof of stake system asks users to put their coins to get the rewards that mining used to offer, which means mining Ethereum is no longer possible. There's a ton of other stuff to mine, obviously. Proof of work is infamous for all the power it wastes. Man, this guy is like drinking the Kool-Aid, man. There's also the question of whether you'd rather have a GPU or an ASIC designed to excel at mining specific coins. The BC250 isn't precisely the best graphics card for mining, especially considering its unique inclusion of a CPU core. For $500, you might be better off getting a used 3080 or RX 6800 XT, which is true. In general, that last part would be true. However, this is like a piece of crypto mining history that is super interesting, mining on a PS5. If you guys aren't aware, this is the original post way back in 2022. Actually, this is a little newer. I guess they updated it, but it kind of went over the specs. If you had 12 of these in a rig, you had 610 mega hash a second. It comes out to about 50 mega hash a second per board. And the interesting thing here is that each board comes with a proprietary power connector that will slot into the ASRock chassis, which I'm trying to track down. I don't know if I can get one. And then on the flip side, if you just want to run it separate, it has an 8-pin PCIe connector that you could plug up to, you know, a parallel miner, server power supply, plug it in and get going. So depending on, you know, how many you can get and so on, there is that. Now, I don't know what the power is like on these particular. We know that they have a 90 watt TDP and 50 mega hash for 90 watts or less. Should be pretty enticing, I think, across the board as far as efficiency is concerned. And we'll have to see how it performs on things other than Ravencoin and ET hash and let you guys know. Of course, getting the cut down cores could mean that we don't get quite as good on some of the other the other algorithms, and a lot of these are still listed. You can Google and find some of the later algorithm performance. But it's a really interesting thing. You can go check it out down below. I think 3 are left. I purchased 1. I also emailed the guy to try to get the chassis and 11 more. We'll see if I can pick them up, but for the channel to do a review, but we'll have to see where it goes from here. So the other thing that happened for you nerds out there building proof of useful work rigs is that we are going to have 64 gigabyte DDR5 modules coming soon. And the desktop PC memory is soon going to get another major capacity boost with the upcoming release of 64 gigabyte DDR5 modules. This means, like, for proof of useful work, you could potentially just build a desktop PC and have plenty of room for as much memory or RAM as you could possibly need, and throw on, you know, Vast AI or FluxOS or whatever it may be, and run more containers, that sort of thing, right? Core.ai, whatever you prefer. For a long time, the maximum supported memory capacity for desktop PCs was 128 gigabytes, and the max capacity per module was 32 gigabytes. This changed when DRAM makers introduced a brand new 24 gigabyte and 48 gigabyte kits based on the 24 gigabyte DRAM, allowing for 192 capacities. MSI was among the first motherboard makers to offer support for such high capacities, and now the company will be the first to offer support for 256 gigabyte capacities on its desktop PC platforms. Micron's 1 beta DRAM, which comprises 32 gigabyte DRAM modules, is coming to the market soon with the likes of Kingston's Fury Renegade DDR5 memory kit. The kit features 4 DDR5 modules, and each one is equipped with 64 gigabyte capacity for a total of up to 256 gigabytes. That's a 33% increase over the past 192 gigabyte capacities, which are still a huge amount for a mainstream desktop PC platform. But once again, we're not really looking at it from that perspective. We're looking at it from the perspective of being able to buy a consumer grade motherboard as opposed to server grade components, throwing that in there, having all the latest features like resizable bar and smart access memory and so on, and be able to deploy it in a manner that is utilized for things like Core AI, Vast AI, and so on, FluxOS, whatever it may be. This is a huge deal since you no longer require to get 4 memory modules to hit 128 gigabytes. Now, that's a good point too. From that perspective, for people that are trying to, if you guys aren't familiar, a lot of these platforms work really well on dual channel, but as soon as you go to quad channel, you really get some performance degradation, especially on the XMP overclocking side of things. And so you can get better performance by putting in 2 of the 64 gigabyte modules. You still have 128 gigabyte, but you will get into dual channel, which presumably would give you better performance on the CPU side of things, especially on AMD platforms as far as that's concerned. MSI is demonstrating a 256 gigabyte capacity setup on its Pro X670P Wi-Fi motherboard equipped with the 7900X CPU. You'll require a BIOS update, of course, to enable optimal support for the 256 gigabyte capacities and 64 gigabyte DDR5 modules. ASRock has also showcased support for 256 gigabyte capacities utilizing 64 gigabyte DDR5 memory modules on both the X670 and the Z790 platforms. This shows that all major motherboard vendors are prepping to support for higher capacities for their specific motherboard platforms, and it's good to see that both Intel and AMD platforms are getting support. So there you guys go, keeping you up to date with that, because we are in this weird shifting space from the crypto mining scene where I think a lot of people will be moving to proof of useful work. Here's the thing I wanted to talk about though, because we need to pause, go off on a tangent here, and really discuss what has been going on with Vast AI, Core AI, etc. This is really, really funny. We talk about it on Locals because I've been utilizing it and doing guides over there on Locals. So you can check those guides out if you're interested at sonofatech.locals.com. But a majority of the rentals that are going on these AI platforms aren't doing any AI processing whatsoever. And then you have people coming out and being like, oh, they're renting out for so much money. Well, they're renting out for so much money because you're stupid not mining the thing that they are, and they're hash rate arbitraging your ass. That's really what's going on here across the board, is that if your rental price is low enough to where somebody can make a profit mining something, they're renting it and mining something off of it. 99% of the GPU rigs that are getting rented off of Vast and Clore are mining. And they're mining a mix of things like, if they do have a good CPU, right, they're mining a mix of Zeph and then something else. So this is really what's going on. And the AI denotion, AI ticker or whatever on all of these is really just a bunch of bullshit from the very get-go, because all you're really talking about, once again, with this is just virtual private servers. That's really what you're talking about at the end of the day. You can deploy a Docker container just like you could with Flux. Of course, Flux now is going to be integrating, GPU support into those nodes. It's no different than that. That is pretty much what you're doing. And the AI marker in the names is just a buzzword at the very best. Most people that are utilizing AI on a pretty hefty scale are going with private companies. And this is something that I've been looking at for the past year, been talking to people that have been getting into it. And what most people that are actually heavily leveraging AI are doing is they're not building rigs and then throwing them onto Vast AI or something along those lines. They're building the rigs and then creating a partnership with a company that's actually doing AI, and that's all internal and closed off. Maybe that bleeds over, but I don't think that the demand is at the consumer retail level for AI processing. So until really like Joe Schmo, who is, hanging out in his basement and wants to spin up an AI project real quick, is actually doing that, I don't think that you're going to see platforms like Vast AI or Clore AI actually do any AI processing by and large, okay? So this is something you should pay attention to. If the Vast AI and the Clore AI rig prices are going up, it means you're missing out on something that's more profitable, and you need to start digging into that. That's really the moral of the story there, okay? One of the strategies that you can use that I think is really interesting is building a rig, right? Putting it at your electricity rate level, so as cheap as you can put it, throwing it on Vast or Clore, waiting till it gets spun up, check what it is actually doing, and then you'll find out what's being profitable right now. That's kind of what I would look at doing. That's, as kind of like almost like a psyop, right? Like you're like figuring out who's doing what by just kind of, you have a honeypot mining rig is what you're creating. And that's a strategy that I think is really interesting. So let's go ahead and talk about miner releases for the week. Let me get some water. I took my meds before this. Not a good idea. Making me a little sick. All right. So LOL Miner came out 5 days ago with 1.81, adding support for heavy hash Pyrin on NVIDIA Turing and newer AMD Navi and newer. The fee is 1%. It requires a Pyrin Stratum pool or adjusted Stratum bridge if you're mining to your node. We covered this on YouTube. There is a LOL Miner released a Stratum. So you can go pick that up if you want. I did the guide on it. I am solo mining Pyrin, or was. I think I still am for a little bit, but I've been moving rigs around, so on. We'll talk about that in a second as well. And then, of course, SRB Miner came out and added support for Carlson hash, and I believe is going to be adding, I guess they don't have Pyrin yet. But they do have Carlson hash that they added 5 days ago. Seems like SRB miners a little bit behind, but you do get Intel Arc GPU support. So if you're on the Intel side, SRB miners kind of been, for me, the go-to on that. So you can check that out. They also added support for dual mining, Carlson hash, and Autolycos. And of course, Carlson hash and ETH B3. Autolycos, of course, being Ergo, and ETH B3 being Hypra, previously known as Ethereum, which we covered that renaming last week. Rigel Miner also released an update with support for Pyron hash. Pyron hash and Carlson hash are pretty much identical across the board. In fact, I've seen some people being able to utilize Carlson hash to mine Pyron. I have not tried that yet, but that is something that people have been talking about on local. So I think by and large, they might be exactly the same thing at the end of the day. Speaking of, Pyron is the latest Caspa fork that has been released. We already covered this earlier in the week, but we do need to talk about strategies surrounding this particular new trend that is going on within cryptocurrency. And what is that trend? That trend is essentially fork Caspa. Fork it, fork it, fork it, fork it, fork it. Fork Caspa and make a quick buck. That is pretty much what a lot of these companies are doing. You can't trust any of them until they've been around long enough to prove that they have trust. And that means, by and large, if you're wanting to be profitable on GPU mining, this isn't a put your emotions into a back the coin and put Pyron in your fucking Twitter handle and be a dick about it and tell everybody to hold it. Just mine it before it's listed and then sell it sometime after it's listed. That's how you're going to create anyways an ecosystem for these particular cryptocurrencies. It's going to give people a chance to participate within them if they want, but I wouldn't put yourself in a position where you're so gung-ho over a single one of these forks that it goes, you know, sour, and then you've been holding on to it too long and you end up in a bad position. Of course, that's not financial advice, but like we talk about mining and mining strategies here. And if we're being honest, you can't really, like, there's going to be a lot more. We've had 2 within the past week or 2 weeks, right? 1 a week right now. And I think there was even another one here that's going to be like CPU mineable that they got mentioned, which was Kasparov. I would expect to see a lot of Caspa forks. I would expect to not see them as being necessarily anything fantastic, but you know, from the GPU mining perspective, they do get adoption really quick because there already is support for, you know, Caspa, you know, on the mining pool side of things, on the mining algorithm side of things, and so on. That makes it very easy to adopt. And that's why you're seeing these coins, you know, get announced one week, and then the very next week they already have mining pool capabilities, they already have miner software support, they already have exchanges, because the infrastructure is already there to go ahead and deploy them. So from that perspective, it's a pretty smart idea to go ahead and fork that if you're looking at building a new project. Plus, you get to get in on the innovation of the GhostDAG protocol, and that's really going to put you in a good position. I think for the development side of things, here's where the downside kind of comes, is that at the end of the day, it is still just like a fork of Caspa, and the trend seems to be adding in the Blake 3 into the hashing algorithm, replacing SHA, and that doesn't do enough to make it necessarily ASIC resistant at all. It just basically kicks off any current ASICs and kicks off any current FPGAs. Now, FPGAs are very easy to adapt to that. On the back side of things, you know, in those private FPGA forums and so on, the bit streams are already coming out for these coins. And once you kind of get that FPGA pump and dump, you can see what it did to something that was innovative like Caspa early on, right? Where we hit 5 cents and then all of the FPGAs dumped before the ASICs and brought that price down to like almost down to a penny, I think down to a penny on the Caspa side of things. So it came down really hard on Caspa just from, you know, the influence of the FPGAs. And you know, I think that that's something to take into consideration, because they're gonna be a lot more power efficient on these networks than you can be. they're going to earn more, which means that they have essentially more control over the price of the coin on the network, and you can get dumped on. So be very, very, very careful when you're participating in these networks. My personal strategy has been mine them before they're listed. As soon as it's listed, get in as early as possible and sell it. And of course, every time you get a new listing, the price goes down, 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 down. So try to sell it on the way down. And then I kind of chill and move that into something that I actually utilize a lot, whether that be Clore, Bitcoin, whatever it may be, right? I mentioned Clore because I've been utilizing Clore to rent off of Clore.ai, and I've covered that more over on my locals. So that's kind of the lowdown, I think, as far as my perspective on all of this goes. And you just need to be aware of it, right? Now we had, let me see if I can, I guess I missed it. We had an issue with Caspa. Speaking of Caspa this week, I think it was yesterday. Was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday, Caspa lost about 50% of its hash rate, and there hasn't been a post-mortem on this yet, but you should be aware of it. Mine's something on Twitter, and he also has a YouTube channel. Go check it out, and he covers Caspa a lot. A lot of new crypto influencers are building their entire persona off Caspa. Not necessarily Mine something, but a lot of them have been. I'd be very careful surrounding those particular ones. That's kind of like the ones that built off of, like, you know, Solana, like the BitBoy cryptos and stuff. Be careful on that one. Be careful on influencers that are just trying to sell you one single coin. Just my 2 cents as far as that goes. But the issue was, apparently the only thing that they've said is it seems to be some weird RPC bug that caused many disruptions in the mining process, and they were pushing an update to the GitHub, or to the nodes through GitHub, and they asked you to go ahead and update it. And then it says if your pool and bridge code is written in Go, it's important that you update your Caspa dependency. So it also has something to do with the pool or bridge. Now the bridge that I ran was, I think, was finally updated to Rust. No, it was written in Rust originally. Who wrote it in Go? I think the initial stratums were written in Go by One More B. Smith, who I think wrote the first stratums. So to give you guys an idea, just so everybody's aware, RPC is essentially going to be like the communication between nodes and wallets, or in this case, right, between like a mining pool and the wallets and the node. It basically handles communication, for lack of a, you know, to keep it as simple as possible. I don't have any suspicions as to what this was in particular. I did go browse the Discord. I hadn't logged into the Discord over there in Caspa for a while, but I logged in to go see if there was an update before the show today. There didn't seem to be an update. Cedric had posted something along the lines of he didn't see any significant changes in the code on the RPC side of things. I asked him if he's gotten anything. Maybe somebody in chat, as I look over, will have an explanation for this. But this also, like, just highlights some of the issues when you're more centralized in general. And this can happen with both, you know, GPUs and ASICs. It can be a little bit more pronounced on ASICs because in this particular case, when we see things like Ice River only supporting certain stratums and only supporting certain pools like they have in the past, obviously this has been mitigated and getting better. But when that happens, if that particular pool that's utilizing a stratum that is, you know, compromised in some form or fashion, you're going to have a more pronounced drop off of hash rate. Having 50% blips in the hash rate is concerning, I think, in general. It can be exacerbated by centralization of the hashing power, which I think is what we saw here. Not dissimilar from when we saw Ice River's data center go down and Caspa lose 15% of its hash rate. You know, it's gonna be interesting to find out what actually caused this at the end of the day, and why the code was written, or why the code written in Go for the bridges caused a, highlighted a bug within the RPC on the node, or the RPC communications. Anyways, wanted to give you guys the lowdown on that as far as that's concerned. Now, we do have a new update from Hypra as well. Version 1.13.1 has been released. It came out yesterday, and they said that the network fork will be taking place on December 29th, 2023. Due to a code trap, Caspa never activated due to checks for proof of stake and beacon. These checks have been found and removed. So they're going to be removing the override, so they will have an override check for the merge. They removed ETH-B3 for proof of stake checks in merge in Shanghai. They delayed Caspa upgrade to block 1,600,957 on December 29th, and they updated chain snapshots to Epoch 43. So there's your update as far as that's concerned. An interesting Twitter post that I saw from Hypra as well. They reached out to both Pyron as well as Carlson, and they basically said that they had a way to, let me see if I can find it here. Yeah, this is a really interesting one I wanted to cover. They stated that a simple method to kick off FPGAs from Carlson and Pyron is to use the streamable hashes of Blake 3. It doesn't work long term, but it will be a lot harder to implement hash streaming on FPGAs than a flat 256-bit hash. And they did say, if the devs at Carlson or Pyron would like to consult for help, they have a lead dev, Tagknife, who is experienced and will help them with that. I would definitely encourage anybody here, if you're a developer working on Pyron or working especially on Carlson hash, because Carlson is basically touting that it will be ASIC resistant, at least go in, if maybe this is implemented already. If not, I would get with Hypra. I would take them up on their offer, implement this, streamable hashes of Blake 3 to kick some of the FPGAs off while you can and remain as resistant to FPGAs and ASICs as possible. All right, so let's talk about what I've been mining. We changed some things up yesterday. Obviously, with the profitability of Conflux, I have pretty much everything as far as NVIDIA GPUs with more than 8 gigabytes of memory mining Conflux at this time. And this is unique. So the profitability of Conflux right now is specifically through NiceHash. So if you were to look at why it's profitable because of NiceHash. And so there's a few arbitrage opportunities here that I went over on locals yesterday. We're going to leave that to locals only. But if you're just looking to point something and generate some revenue right now, Conflux is kind of the way to go with RTX 3070s and up at this point, and it is very profitable. It's proving to be profitable. And then if you want to protect your ability, here's the thing that's happening, right, that we need to talk about with Conflux. As the price didn't go up crazy, so a lot of people are asking why and so on. Here's the thing, from our perspective, if we look at the price of Conflux, it's gone up, but not significantly, right? We're still sitting around 20 cents, even over the past month. I think it did skyrocket from, 15 cents up to 21 cents on the 4th and 5th. I had mined a lot of my Conflux back a couple years ago, so I really haven't touched Conflux in a while. But the profitability is showing to go up on, I believe it was, hold on, let's go look at this. it was on Nanopool. So I don't know if Nanopool is just the most. Let's go to mining pool stats. If Nanopool is just has the most hash, so that's why. Or if they're doing something else, but you can see here, obviously the hash rate's going up. From the mining perspective, here's the thing that you need to be aware of is that the difficulty is skyrocketing, right? Because everybody says, oh, it's super profitable. That means that what's getting reported in the calculators as far as profitability for Conflux isn't necessarily going to be accurate. So to protect yourself, and this is kind of like one of those weird things, to protect yourself if you're wanting to capitalize on Conflux in general and the profitability of it, it may be a good idea to utilize or leverage NiceHash, because then you aren't having to worry about the huge increase in difficulty and reduction of rewards. I wouldn't necessarily typically always encourage that, but in this particular case, there's a market for it on NiceHash too. Now, why is there a market for it? It could have been because of the arbitrage, the hash rate arbitrage between it. Someone realized it was super profitable, so they started renting out a bunch of hash rate on it. And then it skyrocketed there, and maybe they will back off as the difficulty gets high enough. But you'll be able to kind of gauge that. As far as Conflux is concerned, if you're wondering, you know, what I've done with it, I do have Conflux. I've always been bullish on Conflux because Conflux is basically, you know, an approved Chinese Ethereum, which is what it is, right? And I think that like I'm bullish as far as that's concerned. So I do have my bag of Conflux, but at the same time, with the difficulty rising, it maybe just rent the hash rate out is what I decided to do in my particular farm for this particular case. It doesn't mean that I don't have Conflux. I do have Conflux. I like Conflux, but I don't want to have a bunch of rigs on there, hash rate just going through the roof and difficulty cutting my rewards down. Didn't seem very smart. As far as the rest of it, I've put my 5700s for the most part on Chlor. And then I have, you know, my 1063 gigs or whatever mining away at Pyron, actually, not KLS, but there you go. And then doing some other stuff on the side that I've covered over at Locals. And then the Bitcoin mining as well. So there you go. That pretty much wraps it up. I did do a fun upgrade this week. I went to a 4090 in the main rig. I haven't done any hash rate testing on it yet. We'll get to that later on down the line. But, and then I also upgraded I had a 12900K. I upgraded that to a 14900K, but I RMA'd the 14900K because it was a pain in the butt. If you guys have been having this issue and you just got a 14900K, it appears to be happening with a lot of people with a 14900K. And basically I was booting games and then the game would say you're out of video memory. So I thought something was bunk with the GPU, went down a long rabbit hole of like, you know, making sure my memory timings were set correctly and the XMP profile was, you know, working and testing Prime 95 for that and blah, blah, blah. And then putting in a new GPU. And the thing that I didn't test was a stress test on the CPU, which I ended up doing finally and figuring out that the 14900K was failing. So I took the 14900K back out, put the 12900K in, resolved all my problems. So I ordered a 14700K same day, put that in while I RMA the 14900K. I don't think that at this point I'm going to go with a 14900K. One is it was just hot as shit. And so really I would need to like do that new D-lid kit that EK's putting out and do the direct die cooling. And it's just, it seems like a stupid ass processor. You get very good performance out of the 14700K. It's better than my 12900K was. And, you know, the performance numbers were pretty fantastic as far as on the scores. Actually, if you look at these, this is kind of interesting. What I'll do is add this to compare. I don't necessarily think that the 12.9, I would probably almost be inclined to stick to the 12900K as well, and I'll show you why. And here's the 14900K. So if you compare these three, obviously the 14700K is performing better than everything else. There's nothing I can, and I'll talk about this a little bit too, because it's a little interesting, but the 14900K was running worse than the 12900K. The system has a 360 millimeter radiator in it, so only for the CPU. Like the GPU is not cooled. And the 14900K wouldn't appear to be cooled, and it was causing all these other weird issues. And then the performance of the 14900K just seemed to, or 14700K seemed to be better. So I don't know that I might try to get another 14900K, do the direct eye cooling, play with it on the test bench, but I don't think I would main rig a 14900K at this point. A lot of people are going to say why you don't go with AMD. I'll tell you guys, AMD still doesn't work with my capture cards. So I'm actually a little frustrated because this is the worst Intel release I think I've ever seen. But like I have the 7950X, that's in the cryptocurrency mining area. It doesn't work with my capture cards. It has Bluetooth errors, and I finally just said, fuck it. I'm not going to even try to utilize AMD anymore. Every time I try to switch my main system to AMD, I just run into a bunch of issues. So stick with Intel, but getting to the point to where it's getting pretty sketchy. I wouldn't touch, I don't think I'd touch the 14900K with a 10-foot pole because it's going to be too hot and it's going to burn your fingers off. The other thing that I did on the 14700K is even that was hitting 100 degrees Celsius, which I know it's fine. They all run hot, but I don't like it. So you can make some BIOS modifications. I was going to cover it. If you guys are interested, it's really interesting, the modifications I needed to do. So if you're interested, I'm keeping it under 95 degrees and it's running, actually benchmarking better now that I've throttled it down and all of that than it was before in all of my benchmarks, like Cinebench, all that. So if you're interested in what you need to do on that, let me know. Maybe I can make a little guide, but there's a bunch of different BIOS settings now for like thermal settings and whatever. But the big one was taking the, your power levels on your package power levels, PL1 and PL2, and bringing those down to 200 watts. And that was the big tick down. And then I'm undervolted as well. I did dynamic undervolting by negative 0.02, and that helped bring it down as well. And then I'm sitting around, 5.5 gigahertz during gaming and staying around, 70 degrees Celsius while gaming. So it's been good as far as that's concerned. Anyways, pretty fun stuff as far as that's concerned. I always like messing with new tech, so I thought I'd talk about it because I like talking about it. If you guys want, you can go check out the new guide over on Locals at sonofatech.locals.com. Make it rain tonight. This is still profitable for whatever reason. So if you're wanting to know how to do this, I did a guide on it yesterday. You can check it out. Supporter status. Let's get into questions and answers for the day. Remember, super chats are never required, always appreciated, first to be answered. I'm going to keep it brief enough today because I got to get into playing some Minecraft with the kiddo. For me to answer, also you can tag at @sonofatech. It highlights the message orange, which makes it easier for me to read. And we have a few questions, and we'll go in. Lahib said, do you even know why everyone is freaking jumping to Conflux? A majority of people seem to be doing it because it looks profitable on calculators. And that is the question is it actually still that profitable? And I don't know the answer to that. I do need to put one rig, or not one rig. I want to put just one GPU on like direct mining Conflux and see what it looks like. That being said, somebody over at, somebody on NiceHash, and maybe it is a market maker, really wants a lot of Conflux. And like I said, it makes sense. Like, I was stacking Conflux because, like, from my perspective, a Chinese approved Ethereum kind of, sounds pretty bullish. Anonymous Miner said, Asamatech, do you know why the 6700 XT is so profitable on NiceHash? It says it's because of the Kapow algorithm. I do not know right now. I would assume we have people renting out a bunch of hash rate right now in general, apparently. I could go look at hashrate.no today. Is it on hashrate.no that's saying that, or is it no, hashrate says 6700 XT. We may have to go through and look at what's going on NiceHash in general and dig into it. I'll try to dig into it. Anonymous one, thanks for the $5 super chat, says, how do we contact you privately, willing to pay for the time? If you go to sonofatech.com and purchase the Ecourse, an upsell on there is like an hour call. So you can purchase that through sonofatech.com. You can always email me too if you just have a quick question at inquiry@sonofatech.com. And I'll answer it when I get some time. Heavy Flavor says, that's Sonofatech, how's your sports activities? Good. I got my second degree on my blue belt at jiu-jitsu yesterday. So that was nice. Still kind of hard. I don't do a lot of standing still in jiu-jitsu. I just lay down. I'm like, come get me. Just because my feet hurt real bad still. And then yesterday I got all excited because we had the open mat, and I stood up for like 2 of my rolls and did some wrestling. And then dude, my ankles were so swollen when I got home. I was like, I can't even walk, dude. So I'm going to not do that anymore again. But hopefully, they say, for my particular treatment, they say 6 months and I should be good. And I got like another 2 months. Sounds like I got a lot of research to do today, guys, surrounding Conflux as well as Ravencoin. I'll try to get that research done tonight. After I drop kiddos off and do all that, I'll figure it out and see if I can just see why or what is going on with Conflux in particular. I'd like to have a definitive answer for you guys on that. I'd also like to, it sounds like now I need to look at what Kapow algorithm is blowing up. So we'll have to see. I think the easiest thing to do right now, Kilbasa, you say like pick a horse for a week and stick to it. That's just gambling, right? If we're being, if we're trying to not gamble, and I usually, like, I don't promote nice hash that much, right? But if you don't want to gamble, I mean, pointing your rigs to nice hash and just taking the Bitcoin payout while we figure out what the hell is actually going on, is probably what I'm going to be looking at doing. Cause that is like right now, it's like, everything's blowing up. Mining's extremely profitable, but we don't actually have a full on answer. And you almost want to let the people that are renting on NiceHash, they're the gamblers. We're trying to run a business, so it's different. You know what I mean? Does proof of work blocks have ruggish traits? I mean, it's a... I haven't looked in a second. I want to say yes because of the token side of things. Anytime you have... I mean, obviously, mine the token, sell it, you're fine. I would just be, as far as proof of work blocks goes, I would just be cautious around anything that's trying to convince you to add liquidity or stake it. Or that's what I would be cautious around. It seems like it was the only 6700 XT thought from your research. Well, I don't know. Maybe we'll have to look at it again. Do you think it's worth selling 1660 Supers to buy new 4060 Ti's? I think we're kind of still too early. It depends on how much you can get for the Supers, right? Snark says, you happen to going to have to buy a Hive mapper. I already have one. I have two, actually. Ooh. Do you think it's worth... Oh, yeah, you asked me that already. Please just ask once, Matt. Jake. Yeah, it's been crazy. My Bitcoin miners are down. Bullish on Ergo with the bridge being soon. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, obviously, Rosenbridge will be awesome. Hopefully. All right, boys. I'm going to work on figuring out why all my Bitcoin miners are offline. And play some Minecraft with the kiddos. and have just enjoy life. Thanks everybody for watching. Be sure to hit the like, comment, subscribe, and notification bells down below. You can check out my crypto mining e-course at sonofatech.com. And then, of course, join me over at locals at sonofatech.locals.com. And we'll be good to go. You go outside and work, Snarks.